So you've kind of hinted here, Grant. Do you find, and I'll get to the tool itself, do you find a spreadsheet or a Google Sheet is the best option for you at this point, or are you using different tools at the moment?
So it's a good question. I will articulate this in a layer of maturity to go to that point of, okay, as you continue to grow. So when starting out, a single Google Sheet was super easy. And I would just mostly track a very high level asset value, what did I buy it for, what it's currently worth, and what's the debt on the property. So what principal do I have left on my home loan? And then I'll track just a very high level buckets of cash flow, right? So what roughly is it going to cost me each month, and what roughly is it going to bring me in each month? Then as I acquired more, it was still in a Google Sheet and it became more sophisticated, which was great. Now I want to track the incomings and outgoings, to your point, around a full cash flow position. Why? Because I'm using this to model and understand more about what I'm spending for the future things I'm going to buy. And so then the spreadsheet came into that. Now as I'm starting to butt up against the time it takes for someone to manage that spreadsheet, to deal with all the invoices, to deal with all the rent coming in, to do all of those things, I'm now looking at a tool to help with that. Now, the intermediary that I've used to help me out is just a tool that pushes a bank account or bank feeds, so from my mortgage and my offset accounts, which receive the rent as well as going to pay for the mortgage and pay for all the contractors that we need, etc. That just pushes it all into one Google Sheet, and I just query the Google Sheet. But now it's that I've outgrown that, and that for anyone who wants that tool, it's I think it's $80 a month, and it's Tiller HQ, TILLERHQ.com, and it just connects to bank accounts and pushes it in a Google Sheet. Not fancy, pretty rudimentary. But now I'm starting to look at other tools like Xero, and how do I have every property and every asset that I own as its own line item, so that I can start cash flowing and factoring in the entire sort of portfolio that I've got. And so that's kind of the next step that I'm into. I'm probably still sort of 3 to 6 months out of that, but it's not a conversation of, well, it costs $50 a month or anything like that. Now it's at a conversation of efficiency and effectiveness, right? Just because you used to be able to hold it all together, and now it's not being able to be held all together. So I'm going to have to go outside it. What about yourself? I suspect that you might have been slightly different journey, or maybe even a similar journey.
Well, this is where I've been very fortunate to live with an accountant. So it's I think I have an unfair, I definitely have an unfair step here, which is very nice, I will say. So thank you, B. We started with a spreadsheet, and then much to your point, it was easy when it was small, and then as it got more complex, we now use Xero for a portion of it. But the interesting thing is the Xero component is awesome for, as you've mentioned, the bank feeds.
Yep.
So you can very much check multiple different accounts and a whole bunch of stuff. You can also generate these reports we're talking about fairly easily, which is a real balance sheet for a business or a P&L or a cash flow report. However, we tend to actually export the finals in Xero back into a spreadsheet because we want to apply formulas or forecasting, which can't be done in that tool. So we use Xero in an interesting way where it's almost like it's a part of the process to automate things, and it's very, very useful for some things. But at the end of the day, we come back to a spreadsheet because we want the data presented in a certain way, or we want to see things on a certain sheet, or we want to be able to do things that Xero can't with forecasting. So I still think a spreadsheet is the ultimate option right now. I know there are some people developing software to do this at the moment, but for what I'm doing and the way I'm thinking about it as a business owner, I haven't seen something that's perfect for me yet.
So I've had one of the benefits of, one of the other companies that I sort of co-founded many, many, many moons ago. We help large enterprise organizations, like billion-dollar organizations, do sort of really big projects to reduce costs. And so think about an organization that makes maybe $5 billion of revenue in a year, and they're trying to cut out a couple of $100 million of yearly costs out of the business. And so what they do is they go to finance, and they've got it all in a big tool, like it might be Oracle or SAP, which is a really, really big financial tool. Think Xero on steroids, right? And you know what they do? So there are bespoke tools for forecasting, for decisions, for all these things, and scenario planning, all this stuff. They've used them all, and these top CFOs will go into an SAP and Oracle, export it into Excel, and use Excel to do billion-dollar forecasting. Right. And like that is the default for everybody. I've flown to Switzerland to see a global organization do exactly the same thing. Like they were going for a $200 million EBIT improvement, which is earning before interest and tax. And it was an export into an Excel spreadsheet that was like 50 megs. So which is the size of the spreadsheet. So it's a very, very, very big spreadsheet. And I'm just like, what? You don't get to a size where Excel becomes irrelevant. And they're like, no, it becomes more relevant. So using these tools, if you're using these tools and you're still exporting into a Google Sheet or into an Excel file, know that you are doing it the exact same way as a lot of billion-dollar companies, and it will probably be the same way forever, right? So don't think, there's a point that I'm ever going to get away from it. Probably not, because you can copy, paste, build your formulas, build graphs, whatever you want in these things to make it so much easier for you. So there you go. That's your validation, Charlie.
I'm not surprised. The customization that is available, and then also ease of use, widely adopted, tutorials on everything on YouTube if you really get stuck. So
and we're comfortable with it.
Hey, fellow business owner, if this topic and value-packed short video has resonated with you at all and you want to dive deeper into wealth creation, check out the full episode by clicking the link on your screen or in the post right now.